What's up, everyone? This is Sahil here, and welcome to the Sehgal Show, where I'm gonna be interviewing some crazy entrepreneurs out there who started from scratch with no experience, resources, and connections, and then later on became unstoppable and dominating figures in their respective businesses. We're gonna dive deep into the mindset of these super successful entrepreneurs to find out how they did it and how you can model it too. It's time to pick their brains and uncover all the strategies and tactics which these entrepreneurs use to scale their businesses from nowhere to multiple 6, 7, and 8 figures. Welcome to the Sehgal Show. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Sehgal Show, where we interview some unstoppable entrepreneurs who are dominating figures in their businesses. Sahil here, back again with an awesome, insane guest. This time, our today's guest is really inspiring. His story is touching in so many ways. He went broke and literally homeless more than 3 times with his wife and 3 kids. After a roller coaster of emotion and more failure than successes, within just a few years, he now owns a multi-million-dollar business. He's a best-selling author, a world-class speaker, an undefeated mixed martial arts fighter, and now a highly sought-after leader in the entrepreneur community. Without any further ado, let's welcome Joseph Aaron to our show today.
What's up, everyone? So good to be here.
It's a pleasure and honor to have you, Joseph. Awesome. Great. People who are watching live, put a hashtag live. If you're watching on replay, put a hashtag replay. Okay. So Joseph, your journey, as I said, is really inspiring and touching in so many ways. And I really love the definition of the word decision that you use in so many interviews.
Oh, yes.
So I want to start from there, actually. So what led you to make this decision of doing everything that you're doing today?
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Sahil. This is going to be a blast. How many of you are ready to make some decisions that take your life to the next level?
Absolutely, everyone. We're seeing so many
fires here. Whether you're live or you're watching, are you ready to be done doing the same thing again and again and again and again, trying another thing in the struggle, trying another thing in the struggle, and just being stuck? If you've ever been stuck before, you know what stuck feels like. It doesn't feel good. And for me, Sahil, when I was trying to escape the prison of indecision, it wasn't until later, it wasn't until I actually got to success that I was able to look back and realize that I actually spent, get ready for this, okay? Guys, let me ask this before I give you the punchline. How many of you realize that slow decision making has slowed the path to your success?
I do. Absolutely.
Because when I finally got whatever, I mean, it's funny, people call me quote unquote success now. Sure, we have a multi-million-dollar business. Sometimes we do 7-figure days, right? Which is just insane. I'm going to share that with your audience here today. But when I look back from where I am now to where I was, I can actually count how long it took me to finally make the decision that I was going to be wealthy. And when I look back, it cost me, this hurts so bad, I hate sharing this part, 7 years. 7 years of indecision. It didn't feel like indecision. It felt like I was doing the things. I felt, what would happen is I would try and do something and I'd start to have a little bit of success and I go, oh, this is going to work. And I'd go tell my wife, oh my gosh, babe, we're going to be millionaires. And she's like, yay, babe, do it. We need you to come through because the rent's due. And so I would go and I would hustle. And then boom. How many of you know that if you're hustling and trying to do anything new, you're going to run into a little thing called an obstacle? Somewhere along the way, the thing that you're trying to do is going to require a skill that you don't have. And when you run into an obstacle, you have a decision to make. Do I keep going? Do I go above it? Do I go below it? Do I go around it? Do I go through it? What do I do? And so what do all of us in the internet world do? You all do what I did, which is I go look for an answer. And so then I go searching around. And what would I find? All kinds of other ways to do what I was doing without this pain, without this obstacle that was in front of me. And I'm like, I don't want to do what I was doing, Sahil. I want to do something different that doesn't have this problem. And so I would run to the next thing. Anybody ever had shiny object syndrome, right? And it's like you go from thing to thing to thing, and you don't realize the years that are being wasted as you jump from thing to thing. The reality is, looking back, anything that I would have done with consistency and intentionality in order to acquire the skill to overcome the obstacle, it would have worked. Any of it would have worked. You know, it wasn't working. I wasn't working. I was working real hard, but I wasn't working on the things that actually get you success. And so the key is the ability to make a decision. And this is what you asked, Sahil, and this is your answer. So I was reading a book by Tim Ferriss once, and he said a decision actually comes from a Latin word. And the Latin word indecision is incision. Incision, which means if you've ever been to a doctor and they said, I just want to make a slight incision, you know what incision means. That means they want to cut you, right? And it's like, you ain't cutting this, right? No incisions here, because incision means to cut. So decision means to cut off. And this is why decisions are hard. Because when you finally decide to do something, when you finally decide to get wealthy, when you finally decide to go all in on a path or a strategy or a way that you're going to gain your wealth, that means, and you feel it, it feels like you're losing something. Anybody ever been afraid to make a decision who to serve because you're afraid people would come in who are not that and you'd miss an opportunity, right? And so a decision by its very nature requires that when you decide, you choose one thing, and by its very nature, you've also decided not to do an infinite number of other things. And so it feels like loss. It feels like you're losing. But the paradox is, it's only by making the decision that you can give the thing sufficient attention to grow it. We know this from nature, don't we? If you want to grow something, you can't grow two different types of produce in one piece of soil. If you got a pot, you can't grow potatoes and corn in the same pot. There's not enough nutrients inside the soil to care for that. And the same is true for you. As infinite as your potential may or may not be, you have limited capacity for focus. And so you got to start with one. You got to decide. And it's not until you decide that you'll really get to the place of success. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely right. Yes, it definitely answers it. And you're right. Like we all got into the shiny object syndrome, and it's up to us whether we have decided on that one thing or not. And it's really hard to decide on that one thing a lot of time. That's the major problem with entrepreneurs, especially, that we can't stick with one thing. We see other people making money, and then we start, oh, this is a cool way to make money, and then we keep on shifting. My follow-up question on sorry, you were saying.
And can I follow up on that for a second?
Yeah, sure.
One thing I think entrepreneurs do is what we're looking for like the best way. Like, what is the best way that has the least amount of obstacles, that gets me there the fastest and allows me to make the most amount? And to be honest, like, looking for that is a little bit of like looking for the fountain of youth, right? Because no matter what you choose, there's going to be obstacles. And the obstacle isn't in the method. The obstacle's in you. Oh, get ready. I'm about to drop something. The obstacle's in you becoming the kind of person who's capable of handling the strategy. Sometimes the issue isn't the sword, the weapon. Sometimes the issue is the person wielding the sword has not acquired the skill of handling it skillfully. And so that becomes a struggle. So we look. Now, what we're going to share today, as you guys know, like, one of the things that I found is my favorite. And usually the rooms I get into where people are doing like $10 million-ish in sales, almost every time, I can easily say in the high 90%, those people are doing some sort of virtual event at this point. And the reason is because it's one of the fastest, most and biggest cash infusions that you can get. We've literally had clients, so they're like, I'm going to do an event. And then they do a virtual event, which is just like us sitting right here on a Zoom call, basically. And they're doing 6- and 7-figure days, and it's insane, right? And so that was one of my things. Like, once I found, like, some of you may know the guy Dan Henry. Dan Henry's
Absolutely.
a world-class marketer, very good friend of mine, super smarty pants. And when COVID first hit, we were having success. I was partnered with someone, Sahil. We were having success in the event space selling stuff. And we were averaging, a couple $100,000 per event. And then when COVID hit, all of a sudden, nobody could do events anymore. And so we're like, I wonder if we could like do a really long webinar. Like, because normally the events are 2.5 days, and we're like, this is not going to work. And my partner's like, this is not going to work. And I'm like, but if we're going to give them their money back anyways, so we might as well try it, make some adjustments so that we could do it virtually and then see what happens. And so we tried it, and we had our biggest day ever. And I was like, huh. So then we did another one. I did another one. And Dan Henry heard about it because I was in a mastermind with him. By the way, Sahil, you put out a great post the other day about being a part of like masterminds and high level things. And I know like it's insanely like increased your growth. It did for me too. And so I'm in this room with Dan Henry and some others. And Dan's like, I keep posting my numbers from these virtual events. And Dan's like, dude, you keep doing like 500,000, 600,000, 680, is like, why don't you come do one with me, be my MC, let's do something together. And I'm like, okay. So we did this event together. There were only 164 people in the room. And here's what happened. And I'm getting to your point, Sahil, with this. Here's what happened. Dan made, with 160 people in the room, and let's see, it was like 34 sales. He made $1 million in a day. Me and him were both on the screen just like this. It was him and me, the whole event, right? He does $1 million. We shut the Zoom off. He's over in St. Petersburg. I'm in a different part of Florida. So, we weren't together. We were just on camera together. And when it shut down, Sahil, I went like this. For those of you who can't see me right now, it's just audio. My face is just in my hand, and I'm just like, quiet. You would think I'd be jumping around and screaming, but I was just quiet because you got to understand, I was homeless 3 times, right? And I'm sitting here, and you're like, when you do $1 million in a day, you question everything you did in your life before that.
So true.
You're like, what else have I been spending my time on, right? Like how? And so I sat there like that, and I probably sat there, I don't know, 15 minutes just in total silence, right? And my wife was wondering what's wrong because I'm not normally silent, and I'm just sitting there like this thinking, okay, this is worth my attention. I need to go like all in on this because it's the easiest, it's the fastest, it's the most leveraged. And since then, the numbers have just continued to increase. Like that's becoming more and more normal. Now we have clients and people in our. So like, why am I saying this to your people here? Because like, we all have access to Zoom now. There is no lack of resources that is stopping any of us to go to the next level in our business. The only thing that's stopping us to go to the next level is deciding to acquire the skills that will allow you to perform at the next level. That's it. It's belief and it's skills.
Love it. And I would agree on that part. Literally on the first event I did. Glad you mentioned about Dan Henry. I got a chance to meet him at FHL last year. And he literally shared me the same story, how he made that $1 million by having the 33 sales of his 30K program.
Yeah.
And I was impressed with it. I came back and I did my first event. I remember I made my first $10,000 day with just 17 people in the Zoom. I was literally feeling like I made it. It was like I cracked the code.
Yeah.
And I keep on doing that events every month. And every month, like the revenue spikes up 30K, 50K. And recently I shared it with you, like it's 100K. I was like, the events are really powerful. Yeah. +1 from my side. Absolutely.
You need to get one of these. This is the award we give when someone does 100K in a single day, right?
Oh, wow.
From doing an event, right? So
Would
it
love
sounds
that
like
one.
you did that or close to that. So congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna converting that month to a day now. So I did
Let's
it in a
go.
month.
Let's go.
Absolutely.
So exciting.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm going to be asking this question. I asked this question to Eileen, actually. Obviously, you guys work together and talk about virtual events. So there are so many ways someone can do a virtual event like masterclass, workshop, 5-day challenges, summits. If a person has to start with virtual event, what would you recommend them to start with? Is there any level, any framework that you would recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. We teach something called a pop-up event. right? And a pop-up event is, imagine like a restaurant, right? When a restaurant goes into a city, they have a choice. They could build out a facility, rent a space, spend $500,000 with all the kitchen equipment and design and booths and chairs and tables and all the things that they would need to build out that restaurant. Or they can come into town with their pots and their pan in the back of the truck, set up a folding table, right? And like sell some food, right? And see how the world responds. And if the city's like, ooh, this is some tasty food, I hope you stay around here. Okay, now we got some proof, like, okay, we got something here. We should make the investment and go deeper. But if it doesn't work and people are like, oh, I'm spitting the food out, well, then, like, this offer is no good. This virtual event's no good. Like, don't go big and spend a bunch of money to make it big. And so we call that a pop-up. And so typically those are half days. So they're about 4 hours or so that we'll do. And there's a specific way that you need to structure them. There's, the offer is very important. Seeding the offer is very important. There's a lot of pieces. And this is a skill piece I'm talking to you about. But here's the thing though. I think this will serve your audience best if I tell you all like an unfortunate truth. Let's put it that way. So as I was homeless with 3 kids and my wife, trying to figure out how to make $55 to pay for the hotel that day, taking as much, for those of you who don't know, if you've never went to a hotel or lived in it, like they give you free breakfast. And so we would grab like extra cereal and stuff to bring it back to the room and bear claws in the packs so that we could make enough money, or excuse me, so we'd have enough food that night to eat in case I didn't make enough money that day. So that's how it was. Now, in that room, in that level of destitute, Sahil, I knew how to do an event. I knew how. I knew that people made a lot of money doing events. Well, how can that be? Because most of us think like, if I know what could make me a lot of money and I know how to do the thing that could make me a lot of money, how is it ever possible that I wouldn't do the thing that I know how to do? And this is the issue. Because everyone believes, and most of you probably listening right now in this podcast, you search for places to get information. And the belief is that information, boom, I got the information, I got everything I need. But is that true? Does merely having the information, is that sufficient to get you the result that you want in your life? Because I had the information, I had the how, I had the what, but I also had something else. Fear. I was afraid. What if I do it and I lose money? What if you do it and nobody shows up? What if you do it and you bomb in front of everybody? And so then when you start feeling like, I don't want that to happen. And so what do? You'll go like search for more information so you don't have that stuff. And that's what happened to me. And so in the search for more, so I don't have to experience the pain, I did nothing. And I kept struggling. Because the reality is, and this is what I learned from my coach when I went from literally struggling to the first level of business, I was trying to get to 20,000. But when I was trying to hit my goal to 100,000, it was like, I just stuck. We talked about that at the beginning of this. And the shift is really not about what you do. The shift is about who you are. I know. It's not do, then have, and then you'll be it. You have to be it so that you'll do it, and then you can have it. Did I say that too fast?
Say that again.
Yeah. Everybody thinks if I do it, then I'll have it, and then I'll be it. So if I do the thing that can make me $100,000 so I can be like Sahil, then I'll have $100,000, and then I'll be an owner of a business that's on path to do $1 million, right? And that's the way we think, but that's not how it works. Because I tried doing things. Has anyone here ever tried doing things and you're like, you try to do it, but it doesn't work? Like, but I know it works because so-and-so does it. How come they can do it and they get results, but I'm doing it and I'm not getting results? And the answer is there's a different level at which they're doing it. What are you talking about, Joe? This is going to help somebody, right? So this happened to me. So when I wanted to get to 100K months, that was my first goal, Sahil. And I kept running into the wall, not getting there, not even close. I was like 1/5 of the way there, right? And I just kept not doing it. And what happens to you when you start doing that is you start going, maybe it's me. You ever said that? Like, maybe I'm just not capable. Maybe I'm just not enough. And that's what I started saying to myself. And so what I did is I found a coach who was helping people do 100K months. And I went to him and I said, hey, will you help me? I don't know what I'm doing. I keep getting stuck at this number. And he's like, yeah. Is it okay if I tell this story about going from broke Joe to from 20K months? Okay.
So I would love that.
So check this out, team. This is going to help you a lot. This is the number one thing I tell my kids so that they never have the struggle like I have. This is how important this is to me. Okay. So my coach says, Joe, have you tried doing webinars? I'm like, yep. Have you tried running these ads? Yep. Have you tried doing organic? Yep. Have you tried doing YouTube? Yep. Have you tried? And they kept asking, it was like, I tried this. And every single time, no matter what I tried, my income stayed about the same. It was like up and down, but it stayed at about this number. And he goes, Joe, I know what the problem is. I was like, okay, tell me, coach, what's the problem? This dude was like a master at helping people hit 100K months. Everybody he helped got 100K months, right? He's like, Joe, the problem isn't what you're doing. The problem is you keep making all the decisions. I was like, run that by me again. He said, you're the problem. Now, I didn't like that too much, right? That's not the answer that I came for, but I spent a lot of money to be with him. So I'm like, okay, well, tell me more. He's like, well, notice. He's like, it doesn't matter what you try. You keep getting about the same result. And he's like, that's because there's a spiritual principle that you know and believe, which is, here's the principle. Okay, you might want to write this down if you're listening. The principle is everything reproduces after its kind. In other words, if I plant an apple, what am I going to get? An apple tree, right? And if I plant an orange, I'm going to get an orange tree. Luckily, it's not like, humans don't give birth to cows, luckily, right? We just give birth to other humans. That would be very strange and awkward, right? And so that's the way the universe works. And he's like, Joe, you just keep reproducing what you are. And he's like, let me explain it to you this way, Joe. He's like, you keep trying to make 100K a month, but no matter how much you try, you're making the best decisions you can. You're working as hard as you can. You're trying to do all the different strategies that everyone promises will get you there. No matter what you try, you keep hitting 20K months. Is that right? I said, yeah. He said, and he's like, when you make the decisions for what you're going to do that month, are you like trying to be smart? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, and are you like making those decisions based on what you believe to be in your best interest for hitting those goals? I said, yes. And he said, see, that's the problem. He said, because you be a 20K per month producer, you make decisions in alignment with the values and beliefs of a 20K per month producer. And so if you're making the decisions in alignment with that version of you, that's what you'll always produce. Is this making sense? Give me a little head nod if this makes sense. Okay. Yeah. And I was like, oh, snap. I said, I got really scared when he said that because I was like, but coach, does that mean like I can never be? Because I like be 100, I be a 20K per month producer. How do I be 100K? He's like, okay. I was like, here's the question. You all should all be asking this question. How do I become a 100K per month producer? Not how do I do the things to make 100K? How do I become it? And he said, that's the right question. And this is what he took me through real quick. He said, Joe, I want you to close your eyes. And I'm like, oh boy, I'm not into the weird stuff, coach. He's like, me neither, but you're doing this, or, you can jump off the phone, but this is the only way I can help you. And I was like, oh, okay. So I closed my eyes and he's like, okay. He's like, can you imagine yourself making 100,000 per month? And let's just say we're 6 months in the future and you do it every single month. Could you imagine doing 6 months straight of 100K months? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, good, because you have to be able to imagine it and see it. If you can't see it, you need to lower the goal. You got to be able to see it. And I said, okay. And so my eyes are still closed. And he's like, let's imagine you wake up in the home that you'd be living in if you made 100K per month for 6 months straight. I said, oh, it's a nice, it's nice. And he said, what's it look like? I said, it's real tall ceilings and some ornate furniture. He's like, do you get right out of bed? I said, oh, in a couple minutes. I lay there. I'm not in a big rush because I got lots of money in the bank. And he said, what happens when your foot steps off the bed? And I said, oh, it touches a cool tile floor. I live in Florida. And so There's tile floors there. He's like, okay, and which room do you go to in the house first? So I walk into the master bathroom, and he says, what's that look like? And I started explaining this ornate room, and he said, okay, pause for a second. He said, open your eyes. And I opened my eyes, and he said, Joe, I want you to imagine yourself as 100K per month, Joe. I want you to imagine the whole day. I want you to journal the whole thing out. Like literally do it from the time you wake up to the time you go. What car do you drive to work? Where do you go to work? What time do you get off work? What are you doing with your kids that evening? Like literally imagine the average day as 100K per month, Joe. And I said, okay. He said, when you're done with that, come back to me. So I took a few days. I left, came back. Said, I got it, Joe. He asked me a couple questions, confirmed I got it. I was like, so what do I do with this? I'm skeptical again. I'm like, oh, that was great. I mean, I could see who that guy is, and I want to be like him, but I'm not him, right? And so I'm frustrated now. And he says, Joe, I need you to close your eyes again. And I'm like, I don't want to close. He's like, just close your eyes. And I'm like, close my eyes. He says, all right. He's like, remember that office that 100K per month Joe goes to? I said, yeah. He said, I want you to imagine your current self. And he says, I want you to walk into that office. Okay. So I walked into the office, and he says, what do you see? I said, well, I see me. I'm standing behind my desk. And he says, I want you to talk to him and find out. Ask him what to do. Tell him what you want. And then he got quiet. And so I see myself, which was really weird, and I'm like standing across the desk from myself. And I say, this is a little awkward, but my coach told me to talk to you. And he goes, all right, man, take a seat. And he sat down across the desk from me. And he said, how can I help you? And I said, well, I want to be you. I want to make $100,000 a month, but what do I need to do? And he said, well, what are you doing right now? And he started asking me, like, are you doing this? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? And I was telling him how it was working. And then I said something, and I don't want to confuse everyone listening, but I said something, and he said, that. And I was like, what? He said, that. Do more of that. If you do that, it'll take you there. Just boom. And as soon as he was saying that, my coach is speaking. My eyes are closed, remember? And he says, Joe, did he give you the answer? And I opened my eyes and I said, yeah, I mean, he did. And he said, what do you think about that? And I go, I can't do that. If I do that, I could lose my house again. If I do that, it's this and that. If I do that, and I was like, just freaking out on him, right? And my coach said, Joe, quiet. Listen to me. I realized I got really fired up. I was very scared. And he said, Joe, this is why you keep producing at 20K months. Because anything that version of you would tell you to do, you're not going to like it. Because he's him and lives on his value system, and you're you and you live on your value system. And if you want to have what he has, you're going to have to do what he does. But you won't do what he does unless you be like he be. So I'm going to tell you how to get to 100K months and get there fast, but it's not going to come because of some newfangled strategy. It's going to come because of who you become. So he said, this is my coach talking to me. He's like, Joe, here's the deal. From now on, you are no longer allowed to make any decisions. I was like, Coach, I'm CEO, bro. Like, who's going to make the decisions? He said, no. He's like, every time you have a decision to make, you're going to close your eyes. You're going to march yourself back into that office, and you're going to ask 100K per month Joe what to do. And when he tells you what to do, you're going to do exactly what he tells you to do. And you're not going to argue, and you're not going to fight, and you're not going to like it, but you're going to do it anyways. And so I started trying to do that. And we had to have a family meeting, okay? Because I literally got like two personalities going in my brain. You guys ever seen the cartoons where he's like devil on one side and an angel on the other, right? That was me. And like we had to make certain words in our house illegal. We made the word like, I'm guessing most of you don't allow your children to cuss, right? And especially in your home. And so I would hope not, right? But whatever, you parent the way you want to, but I don't, right? And so we made it literally like if my kids said the word expensive, it was like saying the F word. They would be in big, big trouble. We started managing the way that we talked about things. And the things that would irk me as 100K per month, Joe, I had to get that out of my environment. I had to get it out of my thinking. I had to detest it. Somebody say detest. That means hate with a passion, right? I detested the things. That's because my coach told me your mind will be under attack and you're going to have to fight to be him. And so literally, like, I would be calling my coach all the time because I'd be like, Coach, I got to do this thing, but like, I don't want to do it and it's not comfortable. And he'd go, yeah. He's like, and I had to name him because like my wife was like, which version of you is this? Right. So I named them. And so you guys want to hear the name? Anybody want to hear the name of my two like identities on here? They were called Broke Joe and Woke Joe.
That's amazing.
Now, this is before there was any political connotation to woke. In America, there's this woke, like a political. This had no kind. This was just like spiritually enlightened about the truth, right? Woke Joe. He was woke, right? He saw the world the way that it actually was. And so my coach would go, I'd call my coach, Coach, I don't know. He's like, Joe, what does woke Joe say? And I was like, woke Joe says to do this. And he's like, okay, we're going to do that. And do you know what happened? Took 5 months. Within 5 months, I went from 20K months to $150,000 a month. Wow. In 5 months, I moved out of the townhouse that I was struggling to pay my rent in, and I moved into my first $1 million mansion. Why? Because being is greater than doing. You've got to be it first. And if you'll be it, then you'll do it. And if you do it, then you'll have it. But the first decision every single person on this call needs to make right now is you need to make a decision to be the version of you. Not a, it'd be nice if, not I'd kind of like to, not a, wouldn't it be nice if I could? No, you must make a decision. You must cut off all other options and say, I have decided. Somebody say that. Say, I've decided. I've decided. I have decided to be 100K per month, Joe. I have decided to operate at a new level for my family. I have decided to break free from the chains of false belief that hold me from who I really could be. I've decided. I'm not broke, Joe. I'm woke, Joe. Somebody say, get woke. Get woke.
Get woke.
Right? Right? And so that's the shift. And when you shift to being, right, then what happened is, and just to finish the story, like we were living in that mansion. I was like, cool. Now 150K a month is broke Joe and 250K a month is woke Joe. And I went through the same process and went again. Then I was like 250K a month to 500K, right? Until like now the goal is a $2 million day, right? Our record so far is $1 million day, like for a little bit above for our personal stuff. Of course, clients have had bigger days and stuff like that, but nevertheless, like, yeah. And that's the game. The game is a game of becoming. Right. And so when you asked about, hey, which style of event should I do? Super important that you acquire the skill. I'm not questioning that. But the point is you must first decide to be it. You must believe that that is possible for you. And then you must go all in on focusing on the single skill that will get you to the place that you want to become. And until you do that, you'll go in circles and struggle. Who's ready to decide? Say me. Me. In the chat. Me. I'm in. Okay.
People are commenting, they're getting hypnotized, super pumped. I'm getting crazy comments. Like somebody said, I can listen to you both whole day. That's literally amazing.
It's a pleasure to be with you all. So yeah.
Absolutely, I'm loving it, man. It's so deep that you shared, man. It's I was having goosebumps and literally feeling the moment when you shared the whole story and literally related it to it recently. That what happened to me. I was like, making at that, live at that level. Think about what that Sahil would do, or same in your case. Think what kind of thinking that Joe would have making 100K or 250K.
Yes.
And sometimes I think it's you said it right as well. Like sometimes we don't believe ourselves. It's just borrowing a belief of someone. You borrowed your mentor's belief that was guiding you, giving you directions. That is so important. That's why I think having mentors or coaches in life is a blessing.
Absolutely. Well, it's a battle. Belief is a battle. It's not a one-time decision. It's a decision that will continue in your life. And so every day, that's why I said, Joe, you can't make the decisions anymore. You got to let him make the decisions. Well, that was a battle because I felt like I was letting go of the wheel. You know, and the interesting thing about that too is that, like, for all of you listening, like, did you realize like that you already know what you need to do? Think about that. I didn't get advice from someone else. I got it from my coach to get me to focus in, but it wasn't like the knowledge of what to do that was holding me back. Because who did I ask? I asked Woke Joe. Who's Woke Joe? It's me. It's my imaginary me that I thought about that I wasn't yet that I wanted to be. But you already know what you would operate like if you got there. The lie that we tell ourselves is when I get there, then I will act like that. And it's like, no, you've got that backwards. You've got to act like that, and then you'll get there. Ooh, that was some fire.
That's so deep. Literally, man, that's crazy. Be that person first, and then you'll do it. What advice, Joe, would you give, like, if you get a chance to meet that old Joseph who was broken, exhausted, angry at God and world? What would you say to that old Joe?
I've had this thought in conversation many times of being able to go back to him, because that version of me was suicidal and angry at God in a hotel, broke, busted, and disgusted. The only reason I didn't kill myself is because I didn't want to leave my 3 children and my wife broke in a hotel room, away from family. That would have been the biggest failure of all, to do that. And so, I've had this conversation many times, and my first response to you, Sahil, is the first thing I want to do is just smack him. Like, I just want to smack him. I'm an MMA fighter, and I just want to smack him. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, how are you this confused? Like, how are you this lost? It's interesting, like we as humans, we're going to go through seasons. You're going to go through seasons of wealth. There's times to be excited. There's times to be sad. There's good times. There's bad times. There's times to struggle and times to just live in victory, right? There's different times and seasons of life, but it's interesting that when we talk about someone who's not producing in their life at the level that they want to, we use the word broke. Do you ever think about that? Like, we use the word broke because you were made to produce. You were made to make the world better, to add value to humanity in some way, right? This is why I wear the shirts that say Imago Dei. It's like, and for us, it's like made in the image of God is a big idea in our culture. And it's just like, we were made to create a better world. And when you don't, there's something broken. And so if I was to go back to that version of me in the hotel room, first of all, how many of you realize, like, if this version of me could go back to that version of me and I got to live like him, I know what I know now, I think how I think now, I value what I value now, how long would it take me to get that guy to 100K per month? Answer? Like, almost immediately.
Yeah.
Probably in like 2 weeks. Right? No resources. No, like, I have his resources. I'm in the hotel. I have no doubt, like 2, maybe 3 weeks before I have 100 grand in my pocket. Done. Why? What's the difference? And it's what I told you earlier. It's belief and skill. The first thing that version of me didn't know and understand, he didn't really believe what he was capable of. And if there's something I can leave with you here today, if you're in this room or you're watching or listening on a replay, let me just tell you, you are capable of more than you think you're capable of. You are stronger than you think you are. You are more gifted than you think you are, and your potential is high. I don't know who lied to you. Who told you that you couldn't do it? Who told you that 6-figure months were not possible? Who told you that you couldn't create a dream for your families and friends and make it real? You're a creator. You were made for this. The idea that you can't is the insane idea, not the idea that you can. Somebody say, I was made for this. I was made for this.
Made for this.
You were like, nature itself testifies. Humanity are the only creatures capable of creation of symphonies and books and movies. Like, we're the only creature that create. You're a creator. So what lie would be the first, like, that'd be my first thing to him, just like it is to all of you. If you're struggling right now in any way, it's like, don't you understand who you are? You were made for this. And so that's the first thing. It's belief. And then the second thing I would attack is skill. And really, there's a lot of skills that you could acquire in the world. But the most valuable skill after you've after being a creator is like deciding how you want to make the world better. The next most valuable skill after you've decided, okay, I'm going to create something valuable and I'm going to trade it with other people. I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to give it to them and they're going to give me something else valuable in return. Usually that valuable thing in return is like money, right? That's usually what they give you in return, but they could trade you, apples for your skills, or they could trade you wood for your skills, or bricks or something. I don't know. But in general, in the world, we trade money, right? Because it's usable.
Yeah.
What's my point? Like, once you decide I'm a creator, the next thing you have to decide is, what skill do I need to acquire to communicate that value to other people? Because if I can say it in a way that makes them desire it, people are going to buy what they want to buy. And so the first most valuable skill is like creation, but the second most valuable skill is communication. And so he was already a good communicator. He was leading a nonprofit movement. What he didn't believe was that he could use that skill to communicate the value that he was producing in his product or service and trade that for money. That was it. He had this money block, right? And so my lesson to all of you in the audience is like, the first thing is like deciding, okay, I'm going to be a valuable person in the world and I'm going to create something valuable. You were made for it. The second thing that you need to like commit yourself to is, okay, now that I know that I'm going to create something valuable in trade, I need to get good at communicating that value to the world so that they desire the thing that I'm creating. And when you have those two skills, whoo, money rains from the sky.
It's like becoming unstoppable.
Yes. I've always thought, like, if I could be a superhero, like, what would be the one superhero skill I want? And I've always come back to, like, I think it would be easy to be a superhero. Like, whatever they said, like, the other person has to believe you. And so you could just, you could stop anybody, right? Because they would just be like coming at you and you'd be like, I'm a good guy, I'm your friend. And they're like, they won't fight you anymore. It's going to beat you. They'd have to wear earplugs or something.
Yeah, it's so true. So true. Love it, man. It's every word, everything that you are saying, it's so deep. It's not just upper layer. It's like you're going inside that particular thing. And that's what I think, that's how you become that person. That's what we are talking about in the whole day. Before we round this up, the show, I don't want to leave you. First of all, I'm enjoying this conversation.
Somebody Me too. Thank you so much. This is fun.
Yeah,
I've got something for your audience if you want me to share. So it's up to you. So
absolutely, I'm okay with that. Somebody said it looks like a coaching session. People are loving it.
Well, I'm just trying to pour into all of you, and so yeah, I mean, whatever you're doing, and Sahil, tell me a little bit about what you do, real quick.
Yeah, I'm a coach, and I help other coaches now to hit their first 100K in 6 months through organic.
You're like the guy in my story. You're helping all them do what that coach did for me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. That is awesome.
That's an honor.
That is so awesome. Guys, listen to your coach. Coaches like this change your life. Super awesome. Absolutely. Well, yeah, if you want me to share, I want to share a little bit on communication, if that'll help them. How many of you guys would love to, like?
Yeah, I would love that. And I have one more question, and you can answer both together if you want, because I know you use biblical principles to teach that business. So I want to know, what are the 3 or more than 3, if you have, most important lessons that you have learned from Bible and now help you to take your business to wherever level you are at?
Wow, that's a 3. That's it's like giving a pastor a microphone. Like it's you're never going to get the microphone back.
You can say as many as you want.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, the first one that I'll share then is the one I kind of just spoke about it a little bit, but when you read Genesis chapter 1, the first thing that God tells you about you is that you were made to be like Him. I'll say that again. The first thing God tells you about you is that you're made to be like Him, and the only thing you know about Him at that point is that He's the creator. He made everything, which tells me I'm a creator, right? And that's the evidence of that is clear, like I said, because monkeys aren't writing books or symphonies or music or anything like that. So that's pretty clear. So it's like, if I'm a creator, then all I do is look at the model of what He did. And it's like, what did He do? He created. And what did He create? Good. He took, right? And so that would be my first lesson, right? The second lesson that I share everywhere, I'm actually writing a book on it right now, is God told you how to change the world. The very first sentence that God ever spoke told you your purpose. Many people are like, what do I do? How do I live out my life in such a way that I'm actually doing what God wants me to do with my life? And the answer is, it's the first thing he said: be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it. I call it God's 4-step plan to change the world. What's be fruitful? Deciding to produce something of value that helps the world. Fruitful. Many people spend their whole life, though, working real hard to produce, and that's the only level they ever operate at their life in. How many of you are working real hard and hustling to get to 100K? Right? It usually happens that way because you're in the stage of be fruitful.
Yeah.
But God didn't stop at be fruitful. He then said multiply. Some people are scared to multiply, Sahil, because they're working so hard to be fruitful. They're like, I don't want any more work, right? Because the assumption is more production, right? More apples means more work, but that's not actually how it works. The way God set up the world is like, once you're fruitful and you're producing as many apples as you can on your apple tree,
yeah,
you're supposed to multiply. And the way you multiply is you stop focusing on fruit and you start focusing on trees. How do you do that? You have to reinvest the fruit, apples, as seed. You have to take of that which you've produced and risk it in order to produce something else that can produce what you're producing. So this is the level where you start hiring employees, right? Or you start investing into advertising, or you start like the next level after you've done all you can do to produce. I noticed you got like great training on organic. Awesome. Fantastic. I'm a huge fan of organic right now. Like you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, right? But then it's like, okay, now you're producing from your efforts organically.
Yeah.
If you take some of the fruit and reinvest it in the ground, now you can have other things that are bringing forth that same fruit, and you get it without the effort. Somebody say without the effort. Right. And then it's like, okay, now I don't have effort. And it's like, then you start making some crazy cash. Okay. I just call it crazy cash when that starts happening. And then you're like, then you start thinking, well, when should I stop then? Because like, I got enough. You guys know, like I've got a pool outside my house. I could just go lay in the lawn chair and do one event a year and make millions per year. That's it. I could just do that. But I don't. Why? Because the third thing God said after multiply, be fruitful, multiply was fill the earth. In other words, when do I stop producing good things that make the world better? And God's answer to that in the first sentence to humanity was, when everyone on earth has experienced the goodness you're creating, then you're allowed to stop. And I don't know about you, but the whole earth hasn't experienced the goodness that I'm creating. Not everybody I know is doing virtual events, so I got more work to do, right? Because I got to help them, right? So it's like, that's what I produce. Everyone hasn't experienced it. I still got more work to do. And then the last thing was subdue it. That's the last thing. Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it. But subdue it is militaristic language. And the idea there is that if you're working to produce the things you produce to make the world better, other humans are also working to produce things that may make the world better or may make the world worse. How many of you know people producing things that hurt the world or hurt people?
Yep.
I do. I know all kinds of music that's hurtful. I know some messages that are hurtful. And so when those two things collide, God's answer to you is win. If you're producing goodness, you're going to have some battles and you're going to have some struggles and you're going to have some temptations to stop or to give up, or it's not worth the fight. And his message to every single one of you who's decided to produce goodness in the world is not just to be fruitful and work real hard to produce. It's not just to reinvest the fruit of your labor in order to multiply. And it's not just to fill the earth. It's a warning. You're going to come against some adversity. And when you come against it, win. Somebody say win. Somebody say, I'm a winner. I'm a winner. That's your calling. That's your purpose. Do it with excellence and do it well. There's two for you. There's two for you.
So beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Literally
it's beautiful truth.
Absolutely. It's not gold nuggets, it's diamond nuggets. I would say that.
Well, good stuff. That. Well, listen, how many of you want to like become a better communicator to get the word out in a better way?
Somebody asked the same question.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. How to communicate better.
Yeah,
I would look, it's funny. One of the frustrating things you may have experienced is when you know you have something good that helps people, but you're trying to say it and they're just not getting it. How many of you ever had that? Or it's like, you know, the world is full of messages going out. And so you'll like try to get the words out of your mouth, or how do I say it in a way that actually gets the attention? and it's just like it falls flat.
Hmm.
And so like we kept seeing this again and again and again, and there's actually frameworks. There's like specific ways that you can frame what you're going to say so that people want it. How many of you want your people to want it? And like once you use the frameworks for how to want it, like and help them want it, like what happens is you talk and people are like, oh my gosh, like I want to hang out with that person more, or oh my gosh, I want to buy their thing, or oh my gosh, I want to opt into their thing. Like right now, as I'm speaking, how many of you want to opt in to whatever I'm going to say next?
Without
Right?
any doubt.
That's because I'm using a framework, right? That creates desire. And so Eileen and I, Sahil, are doing a 5-day challenge where we're actually teaching people the frameworks and the skills that we're using to do events. And this is in no way to compete with anything Sahil is doing, because you're awesome, dude. And like what you're doing, I'm so grateful for and stuff like that. But if you all want to go deep and spend a couple days with Eileen and I learning how to communicate at a level, it'll help you with your virtual events. It'll help you with your organic marketing. It'll help you with your YouTube stuff. It'll help you with everything. Anytime you open your mouth, there's ways to do it in a way that creates desire. So if you guys want to be a part of our $1 million speaker challenge, I want you to go to the number 7figureday.com, 7figureday.com. And yeah, be a part of that challenge. You're going to hang out with Eileen and I for a few days. We're going to answer all your questions and hang out. Look, you know, it's going to be a lot of fun. So
Absolutely. I am gonna be there, definitely. People who are
good.
watching us live or on replay, definitely go there. It's gonna be transforming, life transforming, especially people who want to go to the next level of like you want to use the skill of that communication to persuade, not convince, but persuade other people. That's what I love that concept. Myron Golden uses 4 levels of values, like
Yes.
implementation, unification, communication, and imagination. If I'm right,
Yes. Yes.
yes, I
And that
really
whole
love that.
creation stuff I just talked about, that's imagination, right? And then communication is the next level down. You have to have it. It's the highest level skills and the most valuable skills on the planet. But you already know that, don't you? You know it.
Absolutely. I'm trying to go to that communication level now and then imagination. Somebody already posted a link. RJ, thank you so much, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you, RJ.
definitely. Absolutely. I'm going to be joining people who are watching again. Definitely go there. And I'll be putting that link again in the show notes down there.
I appreciate it. I
It was
appreciate it.
awesome. So awesome, Joseph.
It's
Yeah,
been so
go
fun
ahead.
talking with all of you. Like, just as a final word, Sahil, like
Yeah.
I just want to remind you all, like, you were made to do something great with your life. And whoever is whispering in your ear, or whatever thoughts are coming from the broke Joe version of yourself that tell you that you can't do it, I came to stand bold faced, flat footed, sword in hand, warrior ready to tell you it's a lie. You're more capable than you can even imagine. The guy that just a few years ago was struggling to pay $55 a day, I'm currently working on 8-figure real estate deals and 8-figure acquisitions of other companies and buying up a media conglomerate and all the, and it's like, how is that even possible? And the answer is like, once you understand who God made you to be, and you realize like, all I got to do is believe that I'm a creator. All I got to do is believe that I'm capable, and then get serious about focusing on the best, highest level skills that are going to get you there, which again, communication is a big one, right? The game changes. Everything changes. And my prayer and hope for you is one day you're sitting there like I was when I helped Dan Henry the first time. I was, oh my gosh, what have I been doing the rest of my life? I should have focused on this before. So proud of you all. Thanks so much for having me, Sahil.
Amazing. Thank you so much for all this stuff that you shared, your values. You have been so gracious with your time, man. Thank you so much once again. We will catch up with another episode very soon. Till then, stay tuned. Bye, everyone.